Welcome, viewers. Today I'm having a very interesting lecture on metaphysics. Simply, we ask things what is there? What is metaphysics? How can we relate metaphysics with theological studies as well as epistemological studies? And simply, we can ask this question what is metaphysics? So, to define it and explain it, we have to go to define the origin of metaphysics. The subject of metaphysics as it would be developed in the 4th century BC by Aristotle had already been founded by Greek philosophers. Metaphysics actually refers to two distinguishable but interconnected sets of questions. First is, what is there? What really exists? And second question is, how we know such things and whether the way we go about knowing is defensible or hopelessly defective. Our theme is about the word metaphysics derives from the writings of Aristotle and means after the physics or after the study of natural science. It asks essentially two questions: what is there and how do I know? Our lecture will include certain arguments in favor of metaphysics. How can we define it? How can we relate it with ontological studies and epistemological studies? So argument first stands for, do minds exist or thoughts? The first question is ontological. That is concerned with questions regarding the constituents of reality. For example, do minds exist or thoughts? How do we go about answering such questions? Observation alone is insufficient. There is a far more to reality than what is accessible to our senses. Pythagoras had an abstract, rationalistic method for answering ontological questions that was largely intuitive and in which observation played no part. The second argument is about, how do we know that reality is one thing or many things? We arrived at the second question, which springs from epistemology, the study of our claims to know. How do we know that reality is one thing or many things? To ask what is there is always to ask how we know what is. To declare that our senses deceive us or incapable of reaching certain levels of reality is to make an epistemological claim. If we know that our senses deceive us, we must have some non-deceptive and non-perceptual mode of discovery against which we can weigh the evidence of the senses. What is this method of discovery for registering the truth of the world? Logic, mathematics, science, and even religion. These are certain questions of epistemology, meaning the study, criticism, and refinement of our very moods of knowing. The study of our knowledge. As such, many of our most significant claims are actually beliefs rather than knowledge. Argument third stands for, what is there? Obviously, the two branches of metaphysics, ontology and epistemology, are inextricably bound together. To answer the question, what is there, is already to have adopted a method. To adopt a method is already to have taken a position on the sorts of things that method might uncover. It is not solely in the philosophy seminar that these matters tax the intellectual resources. In daily life, we are continuously confronted by ontological and epistemological questions. Argument fifth stands for, what does have real existence? What does have real existence constitute the method of Democritus? And this particular method is arguing for an essentially atomic theory of reality. according to which the ultimate constituents of the universe are invisibly small particles. The answer seems counterintuitive. We all have dreams and desires and thoughts and sensations. Are these atomic? Can we take these things as following atomic theory? The ancient atomists took a firm position that exists does so because of its atomic composition. In the end, nothing transcends the level of physical materiality. Everything is ultimately reducible to that level. This reducibility is not at the expense of complexity, because the configuration and configurations of atoms may result in any number of things, buildings, turtles, people, and so on. But such collections are ephemeral. When the forces that hold things together become weakened through injury or disease, the atomic structure breaks down. Now, moving towards understanding of argument 6. Argument 6 is actually dealing with, does this search for what is real extend to the realm of morals? To answer this question, we have to look into the beauty, for example. Are there such things as beauty and ugliness, right and wrong? To raise these questions is to trigger further questions about the means by which answers are found. That is the method used to identify right and wrong. Some have argued that the ultimate grounding of morality, law, and aesthetics is nothing more than conventional wisdom. One's social conditions, one's social conditioning. We know, however, that different cultures or historical eras disagree widely on questions of right and wrong, good and evil. For example, about the ancient Greek philosophers were not unaware of the dilemma. The pre-Socratics had grave doubts about our ability to answer fundamental questions without introducing our own prejudices into the equation. Pythagoras, who figures in the dialogues of Plato, insisted that man is the measure of all things. In this view, each person's experiences and perceptions constitute reality. For that person, a reality that can claim as much ontological validity as any other. What Pythagoras claims, to move onwards, what Pythagoras claims is that judgments of any sort, right or wrong, beauty or ugliness, must have some grounding. And that grounding can only be the experiences of a lifetime. We cannot occupy an epistemic position external to our own human ways of thoughts and feeling. Point number 7 is about Pythagoras' position on religious matters of Homeric epic, appears in the only surviving fragment of his treatise on gods. About the gods, I cannot say either they are or that they are not, nor how they are constituted in shape. There is so much that prevents knowledge of this kind. The unclarity of the subject and the shortness of human life. You can find out further, and you can also understand while studying these particular books for your study. I must recommend that you should study these sources for your further advancement of your study. And if you have any question, these are possible questions at the end of this lecture. So if you have any questions or sets of questions or comments, please ask me in the comment section. Thank you very much.